I first gained access to Toqan in May 2024, and up until that point, I was able to skirt around the inevitable moment when I'd have to confront the dormant opposition to Gen AI I'd been carrying around. Because IT content curation and training is what I do for a living, I was bound to interact with various AI solutions I'd learn inside and out so I could teach other people how to use them in role-specific scenarios. Things like the Zoom AI meeting assistant, Atlassian Intelligence, chatbot features within ServiceNow, things like that. AI features within existing tools. But when it came to Toqan, I had the same response I initially had with ChatGPT, which brought up a lot of feelings I hadn't yet processed. In fact, I'll admit that I often felt kind of angry at ChatGPT in the beginning because I typed a few prompts and was not impressed by the output. I simply could not comprehend the broader mainstream allure of this tool. I just couldn't understand what everyone was so excited about. Because here's the thing, in my own egocentric sort of way, I felt sort of offended because in my mind, I could write better than this artificial tool could. And this was at the root of my opposition to Gen AI in the mainstream marketplace. Deep down in my subconscious, I believed that my tone, my writing style, and my creative voice was somehow in competition with the robotic output produced by ChatGPT, or worse, that I was at risk of being replaced by it. And so I held a firm boundary between AI and the work I produced, clinging to my secondary response of acting out based on a feeling I hadn't yet named. I even went so far as to protest by signing knowledge articles, emails, Slack posts, and even social media posts with "written by a real human" or "produced by HI, human intelligence." As you can probably imagine, this caused friction for me in the workplace. I was truly struggling. Luckily, I have a strong leadership and management team on my side who saw through my hyperbolic outbursts and took the time to check in with me. If my mentors had taken the stance of mandating me to comply with and just use AI to generate content and stop thinking about it, work would have been a real struggle for me, and I don't know if I would have made the cut. Instead, they listened and reminded me of who I really am. I'm a person who helps other people embrace and navigate change for a living. I needed to hear that. I needed to be reminded that I wasn't up against AI. It was just a change I needed to sit with, just like I did when I embraced cloud computing and other technological advancements as I helped companies implement cutting-edge solutions throughout my career. So I did the thing that helps me when I feel the most overwhelmed and weighed down. I began writing. I gave voice to every fear, complaint, invented narrative nagging in the back of my mind until I had gotten it all out on the page. The words came out like water pushing through a crack in a dam, and then gushing free and unstoppable through the walls previously containing its natural force. This exercise was truly cathartic and left me feeling relieved and clear. Then, on the very next page, I started a new conversation that began with, "And here is what I'm going to do about it." I wrote out a plan for ways I can begin slowly introducing AI into my workflow. I showed all of this to my manager on a Thursday, including my rant, and she said the perfect thing to me. She said, "Great, I love this. I think you're on the right track. Why don't you log out for the week and we can circle back to this conversation after the long weekend?" I don't remember offhand what holiday was coming up that Monday, but my wife and I had pre-planned the start of a DIY landscaping project that turned out to be way more ambitious than we planned. Feeling light and free from the weight I just released from my existential battle with AI, I started digging up grass with a shovel. Several hours later, drenched in sweat, I had the realization that it's going to take me a lifetime to dig up the remainder of this grass and dirt in my yard. I looked at the pile I'd removed compared to the sea of green that still remained, and all I could do was laugh. The next day, my father-in-law backed his work van into our driveway, and together, we guided a massive piece of machinery down a rickety set of 2x4s. He fired that thing up with the confidence of a prized fighter ducking under the ropes and entering the ring to defend his title. It took him 20 minutes to complete what would have taken me the next 3 summers. And that is when it hit me. I thought, this is it. This is a real-life interpretation of how the rototiller is to the patch of grass, what AI can be to my workflow. And the layers within that interpretation became clear to me as well. I thought, wow, if I went over and tried to operate that big piece of machinery without any experience, I would probably knock down the fence and end up with a runaway rototiller ripping up the grass of my neighbors' yards. What I was seeing in front of me was someone with a lifetime of experience operating a complex tool from the perspective of skill and mastery developed over time. Of course, AI is not just going to magically solve all of my solutions and know how to write in a way that resonates with my writing style or interests. I have to learn the tool and help it understand what I want it to accomplish for me. And that is going to take time and a fair bit of experimentation. I started exploring Toqan with renewed optimism, thinking about how I can view tasks that are hard for me, take time, or that I just don't enjoy very much. I wanted to see how I could use Toqan as sort of a rototiller to clear new pathways for me. Within a few hours of exploring and reading up on Toqan's capabilities, I learned that Toqan is great at writing knowledge articles, which has saved me countless hours of manual work. Toqan is also great at writing succinct TLDR-type summaries that I have not historically been great at. As you can probably tell, I'm more of a long-form storyteller, and Toqan helps me write the elevator pitch for those individuals who just want the information they need, not the whole story. So thanks for hanging in there with me, even if you're scrubbing this lecture at 2x mode. From that point on, Toqan has become an integral part of my life. Pretty much every day, I either use Toqan, write down an idea for how I'm going to use Toqan, or record an idea into my voice memo app that I'll have Toqan summarize for me later on. You'll find a self-reflection exercise attached to this lecture. I encourage you to explore the exercise and use it if you're feeling unsure or stuck about how to approach Toqan from a strategic point of view, or if you just need to talk through frustrations, barriers, and even fears around GenAI. My hope is that you come back to the notion of thinking of GenAI as a tool, kind of like the rototiller, and use this example as a way to cut through whatever might be holding you back. Now, let's check out Toqan in action.